My fiancé said, "If you loved me, you'd stop digging into my secrets." I said, "Then pack them too." He thought I'd apologize by morning. Instead, I found the hidden bills, the second phone, and the plan he'd been sitting on for months. By nightfall, his secrets needed a new address. My name is Lillian Noah. I'm 34 years old, and 3 months ago I was planning a wedding with a man I thought I knew better than anyone. His name was Caleb Mercer. 31. Charming in that careful way some men learn when they've spent years practicing how to look trustworthy. We'd been together for a little over 3 years, engaged for 8 months, living in my condo in Charlotte, North Carolina. The wedding was scheduled for October. For most of our relationship, Caleb described himself as private. Private about his phone. Private about money. Private about old relationships. Private about family problems. I respected that because I wasn't interested in policing another adult. I never wanted a relationship where somebody had to hand over passwords like they were crossing a border checkpoint. I believed trust either existed naturally or not at all. But somewhere during our engagement, his privacy started bleeding into my life. He began taking calls on the balcony, with the door shut behind him. He started collecting the mail before I got home from work. If I asked why a law office kept sending envelopes to my address, he'd smile without looking me in the eye and say, "Probably junk." Then there was Dana, a woman whose name kept appearing on his social media at strange hours. Heart reactions at midnight, messages deleted too quickly. Whenever I asked, Caleb rolled his eyes and called her old drama. "You're reading too much into things, Lil." Maybe I wanted to believe him because wedding planning has a way of turning doubt into inconvenience. Once invitations are ordered and deposits are paid, your brain starts treating problems like stains you can clean later. Still, something felt wrong. Especially after Caleb suddenly became obsessed with combining finances after the wedding. "That's what real couples do," he told me one night while cooking pasta in my kitchen. "No separation. No yours and mine." The way he said it made my stomach tighten. Not because of the idea itself, because it sounded rehearsed. Everything finally cracked open on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to send the second venue deposit that day. I was searching the spare room filing cabinet for my passport because the coordinator needed updated identification for the contract. Caleb had gone out for coffee. While moving a stack of bridal magazines, I found a prepaid phone hidden underneath. Not an old phone. A live one. The screen lit up in my hand before I even touched the button. "Did you tell her about the debt yet, or are we still waiting until after the wedding?" My entire body went cold. I remember staring at the message while the room suddenly felt too quiet, too small. Like the walls already knew something I didn't. Then I found the envelopes. Collection notices, credit card warnings, a personal loan statement, a law office letter. All addressed to Caleb. All mailed to my condo. I sat on the floor and read every page twice because my brain refused to process the number. $27,840. 4 maxed out cards, 1 personal loan, late notices everywhere, and hidden right beside a secret phone connected to another woman. Caleb came home 20 minutes later carrying iced coffees and smiling like the day was normal. I had the phone and letters lined neatly across the kitchen table. His smile disappeared immediately. Not guilt first. Anger. He moved toward the phone. I pulled it back. "Who's Dana?" I asked quietly. "And what exactly were you planning to tell me after the wedding?" His expression hardened instantly. "If you loved me, you'd stop digging into my secrets." I stared at him for 2 long seconds. "Then pack them too." For a second, he actually laughed. Like I was bluffing. Like this was another emotional argument that would end with me apologizing for overreacting while he comforted me back into silence. I told him privacy stops being private when debt collectors start mailing threats to my address. That's when the excuses started pouring out. The debt was old. Dana was helping him organize things. He had a plan. He didn't want to ruin the engagement. We'd handle it together after marriage because we'd be a team by then. Meaning, he planned to legally attach himself to me before telling me the truth. I asked if Dana was his ex-girlfriend. It's complicated. I asked why she had access to a second phone. That's none of your business right now. That sentence killed something in me. Not loudly, quietly. Like a door locking for the final time. I told him the wedding was canceled. I told him to pack enough for the weekend because the rest of his things would be boxed later. I told him not to touch my paperwork, not to access anything using my Wi-Fi, and not to come back expecting negotiation. That was when tears appeared. Instantly. He said he was ashamed, said he was trying to fix everything before I found out, said I was abandoning him over one mistake. One mistake. That's what he called months of lies, hidden debt, a second phone, another woman coaching him through deception, and a plan to wait until marriage before telling me. I didn't argue. I grabbed 2 duffel bags from the hallway closet and placed them near the door. He followed me room to room, trying different versions of himself every few minutes. Angry Caleb, soft Caleb, broken Caleb, blaming Caleb, promising Caleb. Then crying again. At one point he whispered, "Every man hides things until he knows he's safe." I looked directly at him. Using my address while hiding debt isn't safety. It's strategy. That landed hard enough to make him quiet. By 4 o'clock, he'd packed clothes, shoes, toiletries, and a few expensive watches he definitely shouldn't have owned considering the debt buried in my kitchen drawer. He called his friend Brandon to pick him up. Before leaving, he removed his engagement ring and dropped it onto the kitchen island. Like he expected it to destroy me. It didn't. The sound it made against the marble felt cold and administrative, like signing cancellation paperwork. The second the elevator doors closed behind him, I moved fast. I changed the garage code, changed the building access password, emailed the front desk with Caleb's photo and instructions not to allow him entry without me present, froze my credit, canceled the wedding venue before the second payment processed. I lost the first deposit, $1,200. Still cheaper than marrying a lie. Then I paid for a same-day legal consultation just to make sure none of Caleb's debt could somehow crawl onto me later. After that, I started packing the rest of his belongings carefully into labeled boxes. No screaming, no revenge damage, no dramatic breakdown. Just organization. Because something deep inside me already understood this wasn't just heartbreak anymore. This was containment. His texts started arriving in waves while I packed. "Please don't do this. You're overreacting. I was going to tell you. Dana is nobody. You invaded my privacy. You owe me a chance to explain." I responded once. "You lied in my home, used my address, and expected marriage before honesty. Pickup is Sunday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., with building staff present." Then I turned my phone face down and kept boxing his life out of my condo while the sun disappeared outside my windows. And for the first time in months, the silence in my home finally sounded honest. 6 days later, Caleb arrived for pickup with backup. Of course he did. His friend Brandon came, wearing the expression of a man prepared to defend somebody without fully understanding what happened. Caleb's older sister, Vanessa, followed behind them, in heels sharp enough to stab through marble. The second she saw me in the lobby, She crossed her arms like I was the villain in a story she'd already decided to believe. I had everything waiting downstairs on a luggage cart. Every box labeled, every item photographed, every signature line printed. Organization had become my emotional support system. Caleb looked exhausted when the elevator doors opened. Dark circles under his eyes, beard untrimmed, clothes wrinkled like he'd been sleeping badly for days. For one dangerous second, I almost remembered loving him. Then Vanessa spoke. "She's embarrassed," she said softly, stepping forward like a mediator. She panicked. "Can you just hear him out?" "No," I said calmly, handing Caleb the inventory sheets. He stared at me for a long moment before laughing under his breath. "So that's it? 3 years together, and now you treat me like a stranger?" I met his eyes. "No, a stranger would have married you without reading the mail." That shut him up. Brandon helped move the boxes silently while Caleb signed the paperwork. Halfway through, he asked for 5 minutes alone with me. I said no again. The look on his face after that scared me a little, because sadness disappeared completely. What replaced it was colder, controlled, like he had quietly moved from apology into resentment. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You told my sister about the debt. That was private." I stared at the message. I hadn't told Vanessa anything, which meant Caleb had. 2 hours later, another message appeared. "Dana here. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Blocked. The next morning, Vanessa sent me a paragraph about compassion, shame, and how people deserve grace when they're drowning. Funny how grace always gets requested from the person who got lied to. Then came the fake emergency. Caleb texted from Brandon's phone, claiming he desperately needed back into the condo because he'd left behind an insurance folder connected to a medical bill. He made it sound urgent enough that a weaker version of me might have panicked. But by then, I had already photographed every single box before pickup. The folder was clearly visible in one of the banker boxes he had signed for. I told him that. 10 minutes later, my building security app showed Caleb standing in the lobby, trying to convince the concierge he still lived there. He even smiled at her the way he used to smile at me whenever he wanted reality to bend around him. Didn't work. That was the moment something shifted permanently inside me. Until then, I had been treating everything like a breakup. Now, it felt like containment. So I tightened everything. New Wi-Fi password, new streaming logins, removed him from every shared app, locked my credit with all 3 bureaus, pulled every financial report I could think of. Thankfully, my accounts were clean. No secret cards in my name, no fraudulent loans. Just Caleb's disaster circling my address like smoke, trying to get back inside. Then the public rewrite started. A mutual friend named Mallory called me one afternoon, sounding awkward. "Did you really cancel the wedding because Caleb had old debt?" I leaned back slowly in my office chair. "That's the version going around?" "He said you humiliated him over financial struggles." "Interesting." No mention of the second phone, no mention of Dana, no mention of the plan to wait until marriage before disclosure. I told Mallory everything. The silence afterwards stretched so long, I checked my phone to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Finally, she whispered, "That is not what he told people." Exactly. Thursday morning, flowers arrived at my office. White lilies. I actually laughed when I saw them because Caleb knew I hated lilies. The smell gives me migraines. He wasn't sending flowers because he loved me. He was sending a memory. The card read, "To my future wife." I was scared, not evil. I photographed the card, gave the flowers to reception, and asked them not to accept deliveries from him anymore. Friday night got worse. I stopped by my usual coffee place in South End after work. And there he was, waiting outside under the patio lights, wearing the gray jacket I bought him for Christmas. No makeup-level effort this time. No polished appearance. Just tired eyes and emotional performance mode. "Lillian, please," he said quietly as I approached. "I just need 10 minutes. You need to leave." "Dana isn't what you think." "Then explain in one sentence why she texted asking if you'd told me about the debt yet, or if you were waiting until after the wedding." He froze. Actually froze. Then came another new version of the story. Dana was supposedly helping him consolidate accounts. She had become emotionally inappropriate, but he had been setting boundaries. He hid everything because every woman leaves once money gets ugly. Maybe. But healthy people don't solve fear by staging marriage before honesty. I looked at him standing there, under the glow of the coffee shop sign, and realized something awful. He genuinely believed his intentions mattered more than what he did. That kind of thinking can destroy people around you while still allowing you to feel like the victim. "I loved you enough to build a future with you," I said quietly. "You loved me enough to hand me the bill afterward." His face cracked a little at that. For a second, I saw real shame underneath all the performance. Then he reached for my wrist. Not aggressively, just enough to stop me from walking away. My entire body went cold. "Don't touch me again." He released me immediately, but the damage was done. I walked inside, ordered coffee, and sat where he couldn't follow without making a scene. Through the glass windows, I could see him standing alone outside, looking furious one second and devastated the next. Like he still couldn't decide which emotion would get him access to me again. Saturday morning, my mother called. Apparently, Caleb had contacted her first with a tearful story about me exploding over private financial problems. I read Dana's message aloud over speakerphone. My mother went completely silent. Then she said, very calmly, "Absolutely not. Do not marry that man. Save every text." That same weekend, mostly because I couldn't stand sitting alone in my condo replaying everything anymore, I finally joined the Saturday running group my coworker Ethan had been inviting me to for months. I almost canceled before going, but something in me needed movement more than misery. That morning changed more than I realized. The group met near Freedom Park just after sunrise. Everyone was warm and loud and annoyingly healthy looking. I expected awkwardness. Instead, I met Luke. 32, commercial designer. Tall, easy smile, calm eyes. The kind of man who listened fully before speaking. At one point during the run, I apologized for falling behind. He laughed softly. "You kidding? Half this group only comes for coffee afterward." Simple. Easy. No hidden phones, no secret mail, no emotional smoke filling the room. And standing there, with cold morning air in my lungs while strangers laughed around me, I had the strangest realization. The hardest part wasn't losing Caleb. The hardest part was accepting how long I had been slowly trained to ignore my own instincts. 3 weeks later, Caleb stopped trying to apologize and started trying to punish me. First came the police complaint. He claimed I was withholding expensive property, specifically a laptop and family jewelry. That went nowhere fast because I had inventory sheets, pickup signatures, time-stamped photos, and lobby footage. The officer actually thanked me for being organized. Then Caleb showed up at my office wearing a blazer, telling reception he was my fiancé, dropping off important legal documents. By then, everyone at work already knew not to let him upstairs. He left an envelope anyway. Inside was the engagement ring and a handwritten letter. Secrets are not lies. They're survival. You punished me for being scared. If you loved me, you would have fought for me. I scanned it, saved it, and locked the ring in my safe. Then I paid an attorney to send a cease and desist letter. For 4 days, things stayed quiet. Then, Dana called from a blocked number. Her voicemail was calm, almost rehearsed. "Caleb's spiraling. You need to talk to him before he does something drastic." I saved that too. A few days later, Luke and I were out with the running group in Noda when I looked up and saw Caleb standing beside our table. He stared at Luke first, then at me. "So this is why you replaced me so fast." Luke stayed calm and let me handle it. Smart man. I stood up slowly. "You need to leave." Caleb laughed sharply. "Careful," he told Luke. "She only acts calm after she's already gone through your private life." I felt my entire body harden. "You are harassing me in public. Leave now." Then Caleb reached for my arm again. Not hard, but enough. The restaurant manager was already walking over. Someone nearby had started recording. The second Caleb noticed the attention, his expression changed instantly into wounded heartbreak. "I just wanted closure," he said softly. Closure. Apparently meaning access. Police were called. By the time officers arrived, I had the cease and desist letter, screenshots, call logs, flowers, office reports, everything saved neatly in one folder. The officer looked exhausted by the end of it. Caleb received a formal trespass warning and a direct explanation that continued contact was crossing into harassment territory. The next morning, I filed for a protective order. Court happened 2 weeks later. Caleb arrived in a navy suit, looking polished and respectable. Vanessa sat behind him. Dana didn't appear. His attorney tried framing everything as emotional reconciliation after a painful breakup. But paper trails tell the truth better than people do. The judge reviewed every screenshot quietly before asking simple yes or no questions. Had Caleb used a second phone during the engagement? Yes. Had he contacted my office after being told not to? Yes. Had he approached me publicly after receiving a cease and desist? Yes. Then came the final question. Did you intend to disclose substantial debt after marriage rather than before? Caleb started crying before answering. That answered enough. Order granted. 18 months. No direct contact. No third-party contact. Stay away from my home, office, gym, and documented locations. Walking out of that courthouse didn't feel victorious. It felt clean. Like surviving a storm and finally realizing the house was still standing. Afterward, Luke met me outside with a turkey sandwich because he remembered I forget to eat when stressed. No speech, no performance, no manipulation. Just quiet kindness. 3 months after finding the second phone, my condo finally feels like mine again. The extra key now stays with my sister, not someone I'm trying to rescue. Luke and I are taking things slowly, which is probably why it works. One night during dinner, he said something I still think about. Honesty is generosity. And he was right. What Caleb called privacy was never privacy. Privacy is your journal, your therapy session, your thoughts before you're ready to share them. Secrecy is hiding a live grenade in someone else's kitchen and acting offended when they notice the smoke.